Father in heaven, we thank you again for the blessings of this, your Sabbath day, that you have allowed us to still be able to come into the church and be able to worship in spirit and in truth without having to worry about the law, the man-made law looking over our shoulders. We know time is getting really short. We know that we may find ourselves having to gather in small companies, in the woods, in houses, who knows where, but we know that your word tells us where two or three are gathered in your name, there you will be in the midst. So we ask, Father, that you will join us, send the Holy Spirit and your angels, and that you will be the teacher, and that as we look at the events and look at the historical precedents, that we will truly understand where we are in Earth's history. Guide and order and direct our steps. We desire the consecration that is needed for finishing this work. We thank you again for all that you've done, and we thank you in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay. Now, we're not going to move as fast, and we're going to make sure. Someone says it's cool in here. It feels like it's warm in here.
No, it feels good in here, man.
Okay. I'll leave it alone. I'll leave it alone. Okay? All righty. Okay, now, this is going to be a very controversial statement that I'm getting ready to make. This is going to be very controversial, but I just ask that you would entertain or that you would indulge me. When we talk about the three angels' messages, are the three angels' messages a prophecy or messages? Seventh-day Adventists? I heard of both. Okay, let's take the first one. What does the first one say? Fear God, and I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell upon the earth, and saying with a loud voice. So is that a prophecy or is that a message of warning? It's a message of warning, right? How about Babylon is falling, Babylon is falling? Is that a prophecy or is that a warning? Is it a prophecy or warning? Babylon is a past, present, or future tense. Present tense. And when they gave the message in 1844, it had already fallen. Because what God was saying through the people who gave the three angels message is stop worshiping and worshiping Babylon with the Catholic Church because it is already over. So that's past tense. If any man worship the beast and his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, is that a prophecy or a warning? A warning, or it's a message. So what happens is the three angels' messages is a series of warnings that prepare us for Jesus' coming. So they're not a prophecy as individuals. The collection of them tell the world that Jesus is coming. But the prophecy that we need to know is coupled with it. The prophecy, let's look. Revelation 10, 10, and 11. Let's look. Let's see if this is true. Look at what does Revelation 10, 10, and 11 say? Brother Mike said it earlier today. Oh, it's hot in here. Come on. And I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it up. And it was in my mouth, sweet as honey. And as soon as I had eaten it, my belly was bitter. And he said unto me, what? Come on, are you awake? Thou must what? Prophesy again. What prophecy had been given by the time this message, this level of scripture or line of prophecy was given? What prophecy had already been given? 2,300 days. But tell me something about the 2,300 days that made people see it as a prophecy. That's right. So the prophecy of the closing or the sanctuary, the cleansing of the sanctuary, which was to end in 1844, could you see the manifestations of Christ cleaning the sanctuary? Could you see him up in the sanctuary? No, you couldn't. So that wasn't something that people could see with their eyes. It was a prophecy for those who understood. But it wasn't a prophecy for the world. We need a prophecy that the world would see and they would come in and believe in the message. That's why the Josiah Lynch prophecy, we don't want to call it that, but that's what it was. That's why that was what made this movement a movement. We didn't have a prophet at the time. Sister White wasn't given prophecies. It was a prophetic movement. And so when that message was given that the four angels were going to loose and then it would last for 391 days, 391 years and 15 days. That was the prophecy. And God says, now you're not going to have a deadline. Let's look in look in Revelation 10, 5, and 6. See, we had gotten so used to dates. October 22nd, 1844. Everybody was looking at the date, weren't they? They came to Jesus for what? The fishes and the loaves. And then when they realized that it was going to take more than that to serve Jesus, God said, no more time. No more time, prophecies. Look at it. Revelation 10, 5, and 6 says, and the angel which I saw stand upon the sea and upon the earth lifted up his hand to heaven. What angel is that? The giving of the three angels' messages. Okay, let's see if it says it. Let's look. And swear by him, and the angel which I saw stand upon the what? The sea. And what else? What does that designate? Multitude doing what? What are you saying, Brother Lewis? People doing what? Earth and land. Water and land, sea and land. It's a worldwide message, right? So the worldwide message that was given was the three angels' messages. That's why the angel is seen with one foot on the sea and one foot on the land, and I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, meaning the entire earth, right? Having a message to give to the entire earth. But then after that message is given, we see in verse 6, it says, and swear by him that liveth forever and ever, who created heaven and the things that therein are, and the earth and the things that therein are, and the sea and the things which are therein, that what? There should be no time longer. So in other words, after the time of 1844, no more time prophecies. Which means no longer is God going to have a people who are going to only trust him by what they see. It has to be how? By faith. By faith. No more of this prove me, God, because remember when Thomas says to Jesus, not until I see the holes in his wrist and in his side will I believe. And what does Jesus says to Thomas as soon as he shows himself to Thomas? What does Jesus say? He said, blessed are you who can see, who see and believe, but blessed are those who what? That's right, have not seen but believe. And so Jesus is looking for, and this message is for those who will live by faith. Amen. That's why the message of righteousness by faith was so important in 1888. Because it was a message that was going to establish a people not on what they could see, but believing God and taking his word. That's why Josiah Litch and William Miller made such a difference, because they had no proof. They took God at his word, and that's why this angel says time should be no longer. And so God is looking now for a people who will now take him at his word and give this message. And so the hour is late. This is the last time for prophecies, brothers and sisters. This is the last time. Sister White tells us the following. She says, as I saw, I need you to read this and be sure that you understand what she's saying. This is in the early writings, page 67. She says, as I saw what we must be in order to inherit glory. I want to inherit glory. How about you? Amen. Okay? In order I saw we must be in order to inherit glory, what we must be in order to inherit glory, and then saw how much Jesus had suffered to obtain for us so rich an inheritance. I pray that we might be baptized in Christ's sufferings, that we might what? Not shrink at trials. In other words, when this thing is getting ready to get tough, and it is, we cannot shrink at these trials, but bear them with patience and joy, knowing what Jesus had suffered for, that we through his poverty and sufferings might be made rich. Said the angel, deny self. Ye must do what? Remember you talked about those 3 months, Brother Ramul? We must step fast. We have to now get very serious about this, and you're going to see in a few moments. Some of us have had time to get the truth and to advance step by step. And every step we have taken has given us strength to take the next. But now what? Time is almost finished. Do you feel it? Do you see the time is almost finished? In a few moments, you're going to see how much closer we are. And what we have been years learning, they will have to learn in a few months. I didn't just put this slide up here, Brother Ramul. It was already in the presentation. Okay? Okay? Brother Ramul was talking about this similar saying. So the Lord had a message for him. They will also have much to unlearn and much to learn again. See, but we can't come to a talk and feel like, well, I'm stuck on this and I'm not going to change my mind. Amen. We have to say, well, let's weigh the evidence. Well, come, let us reason together. All of us are fallible and all of us can be taught something. That is why Jesus called Moses the meekest man that ever lived. Because Moses was set to become the next Pharaoh. What does it mean to be meek? Come on. Humble. Yes. What else? Come on, one more. Teachable. Moses was getting ready to be the Pharaoh, king of the whole known world at the time. But see, when you're king, you know everything. And if you don't know everything, you got all your smart men around you. But Moses humbled himself as a little child and said, I don't know everything else I think I know, so I want to be taught. And that's what it means to be meek. It means that you acknowledge that you do not know. We acknowledge we don't know everything we need to know. And so we say to the Lord, teach me, Lord. We come to him as little children. And so that is what he's expecting for us. We have much to unlearn and learn again. Amen? Amen. Those who would not receive the mark of the beast and his image, when the decree goes forth. Now watch this. The decree goes forth. Must have decision when? Now. See, are we waiting for the decree? Are we waiting for the mark of the beast? Because if you're waiting for the mark of the beast, you are going to be too late. It's the image of the beast that we have to be settled in on. See, by the time the mark of the beast comes, it's going to be too late for you to make any changes. So as we see the image to the beast, church controlling state, as we're going to show in a few moments, when we see church controlling state, we say to ourselves, that's the sign. Because the churches in America are acting like the Catholic Church acted in Europe during the Dark Ages. Amen. That's what we have to be looking at. Because if we're waiting for a national Sunday law, we are going to be foolish virgins, waiting for someone to tell us. Because when Ted Wilson said, there is no national Sunday law in the pipeline, everybody got comfortable and said, all right, I got more time. We don't have time. We don't have time. Those who would not receive the mark of the beast and his image, when the decree goes forth, must have decision now to say, nay, we will not regard the institution of the beast. Now is our time. Sister Susan?
I was going to say that the council derived answers say we have reading lessons.
Unlearn and learn again. And unlearn again. Let's talk about how we unlearn something that we all have been misinformed on. Question. Who is the world power today? One person said the United States. Anybody else? United States, that's the only world power? Rome. Two people. United States, Rome. Anybody else? We're friends, we're family. Brother Ramul. Or I thought you were saying.
No, I was just thinking I would say the UN, but
UN, okay, possibly. Anybody else? China. I've heard China. Okay. Let's look at that because of time. I've heard people say the United States. I've heard people say Russia. I've heard people say China. I've heard people say France. I've heard people say Great Britain. We even hear people from time to time say Turkey. But can you prove whatever your position is? That's what's important. Regardless of what you say, it's got to be, would you not agree, lined up with the Bible? Amen? Amen. If you can't prove it in the Bible, at least for people within our circle of influence, we can't prove it. We just can't stand. We have nothing to stand on. So let's turn to Daniel 2, 34 and 35. Daniel 2, 34 and 35. We want to be able to prove why we stand on what we stand. Daniel 2, 34 and 35. Now, we talked earlier about that dream that Nebuchadnezzar had. Now, let's look at that dream and how we can line that dream up with what the word tells us. Daniel 2:34 and 35, here's Daniel talking to Nebuchadnezzar. He says, "Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floor, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them, and the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth." Okay. We see Daniel explaining to Nebuchadnezzar his dream, and he's telling him about the world kingdoms, and we see that by the time these world kingdoms come to its end, there's a stone cut out without hands that destroys this entire image. Now the question becomes, whether it's you or anyone, when that question is asked, who is the world power? We need to be able to show in this image, because Nebuchadnezzar's vision was from his time to the end of the world, right? Right? Yeah. Okay, so Nebuchadnezzar saw it from the head of gold to the feet of iron and clay. Each one of these was a world power, okay? All of these were world powers, amen? Amen. Okay, so when we look at, we're living in this time now, the feet of iron and clay. The feet of iron and clay. When we look at here, where do we find, okay, here are the legs of iron and clay, and here, legs of iron and feet of iron and clay. Which one of these represents any of the other nations other than Rome? The feet of iron and clay, right? Yeah. The feet of iron and clay. But what is in, well, I gave it away. What makes up the feet of iron and clay? Iron and clay. The iron existed here, right? But then later on, we have iron mixed with miry clay, right? Now, the iron represents who? Rome. When you look at your legs or down to your feet, do you have bones in your feet? But can you see the bones in your feet? But what happened if you remove the bones in your feet? You can't stand, right? So even though we see the clay, who's really controlling the clay? There you go. Right? So who is really the world power? See, we've been told at one time there were three world powers, well, the two. United States and Russia, but then Russia was removed, and then you have the United States is what most people say is the world power, right? But the reality of it is, who controls the United States? So who's the world power? Amen. Let's see if what I'm saying is true. Continue with me. Question?
I just made a statement.
Oh, okay. Daniel 2:44. Daniel 2:44. And I'm kind of rushing. Daniel 2:44. We're going to take 7, 22, 27, and 18. "And in the days of these kings," these means the feet of iron and clay, "shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall" what? Break in pieces. So after those four kingdoms, the fourth one, which modulates from iron to iron and clay, after the fourth one comes the fifth one, and that's the one that's set up at the very end, and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall what? So after those four kingdoms, or the fourth that's modulated into another modulation of the fourth, there's only one kingdom left, that one kingdom that destroyed. So if you're here, if you're in any part of this, even down to the toes, but not here, what does that mean to you? What does that mean for you? You're destroyed. So if you're under the impression that anything that's going on here that you are to be a part of instead of you being a part of here, then you will be destroyed. If you even misinterpret the prophecy, you're going to think that this is further off than what it really is. How close are we to that coming? How close? Because a misinterpretation could mean you also misspeak what's happening. Turn to Daniel 7:22. Daniel 7:22. See if what this says makes sense. So when we're talking about who is the world kingdom today and what will happen to that world kingdom, Daniel 7:22 says, "Until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. And so once that last kingdom is removed, which is Rome, who possesses this earth? The saints of God. There is no kingdom between Rome and Christ. Russia, United States, China, they're just puppets. And we'll show that in just a moment. Go on to verse 27. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole earth shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. And so this kingdom that we're looking at is the only kingdom that can do what no other kingdom can do. Okay, not the kingdom that's to come, but the kingdom is right now. Let's turn to Daniel 3:1-3. What can a world kingdom do that other kingdoms can't do? And we have historical precedent to see if this is true. Daniel 3:1-3. We're going to find out and prove who is the world kingdom. Because you hear it all the time, world power, superpower. None of those are superpower, because what's controlling them tells them when to push every button. Now, Trump's a little crazy. We can't quite figure out what he's going to do. But everyone before him and all the other kingdoms, all the other leaders, they're more predictable, but you just can't predict what Donald Trump is going to do. So that right there, he's what we would call a wild card. Wouldn't you agree? Daniel 3:1-3. Now, we know this story. Nebuchadnezzar the king. Now, was Nebuchadnezzar a superpower then? Okay. Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold whose height was 80 cubits and breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent to gather together what? The princes, the governors, and the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the province to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. A superpower. A superpower is able to tell everyone, come here. He tells every other country, because they're under his dominion. They're under his control. Can the United States do that right now? Does the United States do that right now? Does Russia do that right now? How about Rome? Oh. Every president in this country, for at least the last, since the 1960s, has gone to the United States. Gone to Rome. Correct? Let's continue. So, and not only the presidents, but the presidents often send their own, because here we see it says, the king sent to gather together the princes, the governors, captains, judges, treasurers, counselors, sheriffs, rulers of the provinces to the dedication of the image. Verse 3, then the princes, and they didn't just come. They didn't just come. Scripture says, then the princes, the governors, and the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king set up, and they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set. And what did they do when the music played? They bowed down. They bowed down. That's the difference between a power and a superpower, a king and a kingdom. That's the difference. The United States, no matter how much military power they have, they cannot command other nations to come like Rome does. Can they? And so you see, this is the image of a world power, when they can gather everyone to have them do what they say do. This is the image of a world power. That's the image of a world power. You see that? All these are so-called world leaders, but did he come to them or they go to him? That's a world power. I don't know how that messed up. Islam. And I think, who was talking about Islam this morning? Someone asked,
I was mentioning about Islam and Joel and Powerful.
No, but Brother Raymond, he said there were more people from Islam, all of Islam. They have all gone to the papacy. All of them have gone. Go ahead, Brother Mike.
And they all recognize his power because they all dress in black when they go to see him.
Everybody dresses in black when they go to see the Pope. Not dark blue, because it's a what's the word? Signal of dominance. You're subordinate. You're subordinate to him. No, you're subordinate. You're subordinate. Insubordinate means I'm not listening to you, you're my boss. Subordination means you submit.
What I'm saying is that they are in subordination.
Yeah, in space, subordination. There you go. Right, school teacher. School teacher. School teacher. Right. Yeah, you're right, Sister Lorna. Sister Suli?
Okay, it is said to be
Speak up. No, you don't have to stand up, just speak up.
It is said to be a protocol in Vatican, right? There are some queens, about 5 countries that are
Jordan?
they can wear white. Only those countries can wear white. And these are countries that have always been Catholic, and always been like where the queens, usually they're queens, and where the queens have always been great supporters of the Vatican.
Outright.
From generations on.
Yes.
They earned
Exactly.
the right to wear white.
Absolutely.
Only those 5 countries can wear
The Queen of Jordan is one of them. She's one of them. She's absolutely right.
Queens that can wear white is because they've been given their loyalty to the Vatican for eons, for generations.
Now, did you hear what I said? And she agreed. The Queen of what country did I say?
Jordan.
Is Jordan a Catholic country? No, it's not. But he married a Catholic, and so that was acknowledgement that even though it's a Muslim country, the wife still has some say-so in what's going on in that country. Isn't that a powerful? That shows you where we are. So he proves again, he's a world power. Okay, that's the world power. And then all these are religious leaders, people. All these are religious leaders. They go to the Vatican. He does not come to the United States to visit Joel Osteen. I'm sorry. He didn't come here to visit with Kenneth Copeland either. Kenneth Copeland went to visit him. But then you know what? What really amazed me was this. What?
Do you think that he called them or he arranged for that meeting?
I can't hear you, Brother Thompson.
Do you think that certain people under the Pope said, hey, you need to come see us?
Oh yes, absolutely, and absolutely.
Yeah. So
Bec-
in other words, they just didn't do it on their own. They were told it.
No, they do not just do it on their own. In other words, it's one of those things where you have to realize no one who is an obscure person is invited to go see the Pope. It has to be someone who other people look at their example and say, wow, I'm going to show you in just a second. They have influence. Here's an example. Who's this? Who's that?
Leonardo DiCaprio.
DiCaprio.
He's an actor.
Academy Award winner. How about him?
He's an actor.
Clooney. Academy Award winner. How about her? Selma Hayek. They all been invited. Okay, how about him? Zuckerberg. Young, is he 30 yet?
Facebook.
Is he 30 years old yet?
No.
Billionaire. You say maybe what?
Maybe touching 30.
Maybe touching. Billionaire. He went to the Vatican. Richard Gere. All these, look at this. Who's this? Google. This is the Google man. I mean, whatever his name is. And who's this? Tim Cook. Apple. All these people. See, when you are a world power, you tell people, come visit me.
Supposedly say no.
You don't say no. You don't say no.
It's like getting an order to.
It's an order.
And you either have to have a good excuse, like in my case, I was,
You didn't go to see the Pope? You got invited?
no, to go and be a juror.
Oh, okay.
And I had a good excuse.
Uh-huh.
So I just took the picture of my green card. And I can't come here. I am not a citizen.
Okay.
So I was excused.
That's a good excuse. But for these people, there is no excuse. So when you're a world power, no one can say no to you. So how did we as Seventh-day Adventists get into this mindset that the United States is a world power, Russia is a world power, China is a world power? Because the United States, a president will never have an audience of diplomats like this. That's in the Vatican, brothers and sisters.
The Vatican is the last absolute monarchy in the world today. The Pope, when he is elected, is answerable to no human power. He has absolute authority over the entire Roman Catholic Church, direct authority that reaches down to individual members. He is the supreme judge, the supreme legislator, and the supreme executive.
That shows you, go ahead, Sister Cammie.
probably Rome probably behind that. He probably wants it like that for people to believe that United States is probably part of his game.
I wish really had more time to talk about this, but in a book by J.A. Wiley, there are different. It's J.A. Wiley called. It's J.A. Wiley. It's which sovereign, Queen Elizabeth? No, whoever came, Queen Victoria or the Pope. And the statement is made that most people feel that they don't have an army. How can they be a world power? Don't we equate power to, right? But what does the prophecy say in Daniel 11? Let's turn to it. Daniel 11, I believe 31. Daniel 11, 31. Daniel 11, I think it's 31. There you go. So in other words, he doesn't have his own army. He always uses someone else, and no one tells him no. Go ahead, Brother Henry.
Even during the Crusades, Rome didn't have an army.
They didn't lift a finger.
And they used the armies of
Other
other
nations.
nations to do the crusade.
That's a world power. We have to unlearn what we have been learning for all these years and relearn so we know what Rome is. We never say that the king of the north, being Turkey, is a world power. We're saying it's a sign that time is getting ready to be wrapped up. That's all it is. What do you say, brother? That's right, guidepost. Brother Raymond?
France was the only country that has been able to challenge Rome.
Praise the Lord. Absolutely.
On earth.
Praise the Lord. France was the only country that challenged Rome. And you know how they pay for it though, don't you?
Yes.
Oh yeah, they did. In fact, France supposed to have been bigger than United States of America.
It was supposed to. That was the plan.
It's because of what they've done that caused them to be a second.
Exactly. That's how you. Now, I don't know if you're referring to the French Revolution or before. No, but see, it wasn't the French Revolution. The French Revolution was the payback.
Yeah.
What happened was, remember when the Jesuits were kicked out of 60 countries in the world, 60, 70 countries? Right. France was the country who led it. Right. And so they said, okay, fine, we're going to pay you back. And that was why you hit the French Revolution. Right. Let's keep moving because you guys, listen, this is fun.
It's not just the only reason. French has more knowledge than the Americans.
They understand the history of Rome.
Literature, French was much more
advanced. It was called the flower of Europe.
That's right.
France was called the flower of Europe. I saw another hand. Sister Brother Lewis.
Yeah, I was going to mention the czars in Russia.
Oh, come on, Brother Raymond, come on. Come on. It is. Okay, go ahead, Brother Lewis.
The czars in Russia, initially you might say they tried to make a stand and they received a payback.
They got a big payback. Remember the killing of... I'll be here all day with you. There's so much history that if this was a school, if this was a class, like we had class 2 or 3 days a week, we could go over and understand the history and then find out how we got so off the track. The way the Seventh-day Adventist Church was they went to church with a Bible and a history book under their arm. And everything that was in Scripture, they were able to find and cross-reference. And then when they saw things, they said, wow, this is nothing but a repeat of history. And so our forefathers, or the pioneers, they would know that this is the world power. All the other ones are just kowtown. How do you get this many people? That was a world leader. These are regular people. All of these people have gone. This is a Coliseum that holds 6,600 people, and the only person who speaks here once a week is the Pope. 6,600 people. Only one person speaks there once a week. And look at what's behind it. Well, this is what's behind it. You ever seen this? Some of you have seen this before.
Yes, I have.
You've seen this.
It's also in Time magazine.
It's in Time magazine too. But this right here, this is the Pope. You see a little guy right there in the white? He can call the whole world here to him. And they don't care what's behind him. Look in Revelation 17 and 18. Turn to Revelation 17 and 18 real quick. Revelation 17 and 18. Revelation 17 and 18. When you're there, say amen. Close. Revelation 17 and 18. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over what? Kings of the earth. See, the United States doesn't reign over the kings of the earth. When the United States reigns over the kings of the earth, it's because the Pope has told them. And when the other people on the earth, other countries of the earth, decide that they're not going to listen, then the papacy says, okay, I give you permission to attack. Every time it's permission granted to attack. They don't attack without permission given by Rome. And so when you look at all the nations being called, and they don't even know what they're looking at, but you know what? This is what that image, this is what that sculpture you saw, this sculpture, when you look at that, that's what it looks like from a distance. What does it look like from a distance? It looks like a snake, doesn't it?
Look like Lucifer.
Oh, look at that.
Look like Lucifer.
Oh.
That's what's on the face of that sculpture. This is what's on the face. That's supposed to be Christ. And the nations all go. These are the signs of the time. They do it every Wednesday, every week. Brother Mike's over here like this.
So it's different nations, different tongues. So I guess
it's an honor in your life as a Catholic or a leader to be invited to come to the papacy. Not going because you're a tourist, but being invited to go. The list is long and years old. In other words, you might have been invited 10 years ago. And when that time comes, and I'm going to tell you something that's going to amaze you, when that time comes, your schedule is clear. You're going to be at that place. I went to visit someone while I was in Sydney, Australia, Seventh-day Adventist, plastic surgeon. Seventh-day Adventist, plastic surgeon. And I sat in his beautiful, balcony overlooking Sydney Bay. And you know what he had sitting over there? Seventh-day Adventist, plastic surgeon. He had sitting over there a plaque that he had received from the Pope. And he was very proud to show it to me. The whole world is wondering. That's a world power. People are excited about it. You get an opportunity, you go. Who can make the entire world do this? See, the United States, the evangelicals out in front, but who's behind the back? Who's behind the scenes doing this? It's a world power. So let's stop thinking about the United States as a world power and see it for what it really is. It is a puppet being used by the world power. And see, we have gotten so much in the habit of, we look at this right here image and we say, okay, head of gold, chest of silver, torso of bronze, legs of iron, legs of iron, feet of iron and clay. And we know all these things, but we don't really know it. What is the world power now? This is the world power now, okay? And let's look at this. I'm going to show you something. When we look at all these different world powers, there's one world power that changed everything, and that was this world power. What world power is that? Greece, right? Greece. It was a world power. And the way Scripture tells us is based on northwest, east, and south, okay? Now, when you look at Greece as it was a world power, what you put on your thinking, I'm sorry, Sister Burns. When you look at Greece as it was a world power, first Greece in Daniel 11:4, it was divided among the what? What does Daniel 11:4 say? 4 generals. But how does it tell us the 4 generals? Because we need to understand this, because here's where most of us get stuck on this king of the north, king of the south. The Bible says in Daniel 11:4, it says, and when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided toward the what? 4 winds of heaven. Quick question here. How many heavens are there? Come on, somebody who's telling me 3.
Third heaven.
Was where?
Heaven.
Heaven where? Who lives in the third heaven? God lives in the third heaven.
The next one is the atmosphere.
That's right, the stars. And then the first heaven is the one we see. Okay, so there are 3 heavens. So question, if it says, and shall be divided toward the 4 heavens of, because you can find the answers to that in 2 Corinthians 12:2 to find out that Paul says he was taken into the third heaven, okay? And we know that in Genesis, that let there be lights in the firmament, and that's the second heaven, and then where we can see the sky, that's the first heaven. And so when we look at this idea of the 4 winds, is there wind in the place where God lives? No. There's no wind where God is. So could the four winds of heaven be talking about where God is? Okay. How about where the stars are? Is there any wind blowing up there? So the winds that they're talking about, that Daniel is talking about, that Daniel is talking about in 11:4 must be the winds that here, right? And if there are four winds toward the directions of the heaven, they have to be east, west, north, and south. How are we tracking here? Is that making sense so far? Okay, so now when we look at the Grecian Empire, it was divided into how many kingdoms, Sister Susan? 4 kingdoms. And those kingdoms were the western portion that was Cassander, the eastern which was Seleucid, the southern which was Ptolemy, and the northern which was Lysimachus. Lysimachus conquered Cassander. And the reason why it was named northwest, east, and south is where they sat in proximity from Israel. Does it make sense? Okay, I guess I'm moving too much because my wife can't keep up with me. Okay, so this was Greece from 331 to 168. So east, west, north, south. Now, I don't know what it did that. Cassander was very soon conquered by Lysimachus, and his kingdom, Greece and Macedon in the west, annexed to Thrace. And Lysimachus was in turn conquered by Seleucid, and Macedon and Thrace annexed to Syria. So all of this became the north. Make sense? We okay with that? We okay with that? Okay, so now you have, come on. Who was in charge of the north? Seleucid, and that was Syria. Who was in charge of the south? Ptolemy. All right. Is this 2 kingdoms or is this 1 kingdom? I heard 1. Come on, does everybody feel, how many people say 1? I see 2 people say 1. How many? I see 3 people say 1. Is it 2 kingdoms? How many don't know? Say it again. 2 kingdoms. This is Grecia from 331 to 168 BC. Greece is 1 kingdom divided into 2 parts. Did Rome conquer this part and not this part, or this part and not that part? It conquered Greece. So Rome didn't take on the name of king of the north. Did either one of them ever call themselves, we're the northern kingdom, or we're the southern kingdom? It's just a geographical term applied to it so we would know where to situate things. That's how the confusion comes in. Because the Seleucids never say we're king of the north. I got another one for you. When a country conquers another country, does it take on the name of the country it conquered? No. So when did Rome take on the name king of the north? No. Did Rome ever take on the name king of the north? No. So where did this name that Rome was the king of the north ever come from? Because it was misinterpreted. It's misinterpreted. Rome conquered all of it, brothers and sisters. They didn't conquer just a part. Am I making sense? Or you want me to back up on this? Because this is vital to your understanding of where we became confused on this idea of king of the north, king of the south. Because Rome, when it conquered Greece, it conquered all of Greece. In order for us to say that Rome is the king of the north, we'd have to find some entity equal as well as opposite to Rome and say it conquered that part. Make sense? Does that make sense? Yeah. I'm still not seeing. I want to make sure that people are saying, yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah. Questions? Questions, Sister Suli?
Greece has about 365 islands.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Are you saying that at the time of Seleucid, that all 300, which I understand, all 365 islands, with Athens including everything, was transferred to Rome? Are you saying that part of Greece? Oh, I understand. I don't know how to say that.
Come on, you're the school teacher. Help her.
I do, but I have.
Well, okay, let's look at it this way. Head of gold.
I answered my question.
All of Greece was conquered because it was conquered by Rome, which was a what? World power. One world power conquered another. Babylon was conquered by Medo-Persia. Medo-Persia conquered by Greece. Greece didn't conquer part of Medo-Persia, it conquered all of it. In fact, when it conquered when Medo-Persia conquered Babylon, it was 120 provinces at first, and then they found a couple of more pieces of property, and it went up to 123. So while they conquered the majority of the land, they might have gone and found something else and added to its kingdom. And so when Rome conquered Greece, according to Daniel 2:34 and 35, it conquered all of Greece.
So it's like saying if somebody conquered the United States, that includes Michigan too.
Well, he makes a good point. No, because that's what this is. That's the misinterpretation. Well, they conquered most of it. Oh, they conquered the United States and, Texas too. It's all the United States. It's all of it. So it wasn't even though it was divided for us to understand geographically what was going on. Sister Suli, you got your hand up again?
No.
Hold on, Suli, then Suzanne.
No, I was thinking like at the time when Rome conquered, what happened to Egypt? I guess that
You answered it. We're going to see in just a second. Here, let's watch. Right here. Okay, come on. Come on, computer. So, Rome conquered the north. The north was who? We said it. Seleucid. And Rome conquered also the south. Right? And they didn't conquer one at a time. They conquered all of it. And so all of a sudden, the north and the south actually became Rome, a world power. The next world power. That's what the scripture says. That's what the scripture says. So it continues on. And so you don't hear anything else more about the king of the north and the king of the south until Napoleon kicks up the dirt and causes them to become unhappy with what he did in 1798 when he invades Egypt. And the Egyptians said, you're not going to invade us. And then the Turks said, you're not going to stick your hands in our land. And for 2 years. Exactly. So that's why we have to be sure of what we are reading and interpreting, because you cannot find anywhere in history other than when you're talking about Seventh-day Adventists and a couple of theologians who will say that Seleucid or Syria was king of the north and Egypt was king of the south. In typical geopolitical books, you will not see king of the north or king of the south. You will see the names of those countries. They never identified themselves as king of the north or king of the south. They didn't, even when they were king of the north and king of the south, they never identified themselves as king of the north and king of the south. So Rome is not a world power just for the east, west, north, and south. It's a world power for the entire world. Amen? Is it not? Amen. Unless we're going to misinterpret or interpret Daniel 2 differently, every world power was in charge of the known world while they were a world power. Amen. So now that Rome, all the way down to the feet of iron and clay, is in existence, is it a world power in charge of the whole world? If you read, I'm not a big proponent of exterior or external books, but if you read Malachi Martin's book, Malachi Martin said between the U.S. and USSR, one of the two of them was going to have to go, didn't he? And he said Rome was going to make sure one of the two was gone.
Some people are wanting to beg in Rome, right?
No, I'm talking about Malachi Martin when he talking about between the U.S., the USSR, and the papacy. The papacy was working behind the scene to get rid of one of the two of those, because he needed the military power of one of the two of those, but he couldn't deal with having both of them. So he worked to remove Brezhnev, whatever his name is. He worked to remove him, and then Boris Yeltsin came in, sold the country up the river, etc., etc. And so the papacy knew that they needed one world power to work for them, one military power to work for them from a military standpoint, and they knew the United States spending more on their budget as one country than all the other countries in the world. Brother Mike?
That's why Russia couldn't keep up, and when they tried to spend money to keep but with the money
They
that
spend
the
themselves in the
United
ground.
States was spending, it caused their economy
To crash. Brothers and sisters, this history stuff is so sweet because the Lord told us it was going to happen. Oh, I wish I could go on. But anyway, so from 168 BC to 476 AD, we had the pagans, and then 476 to the end of time. The Bible says that is the world power. That's the world power according to my Bible.
Revelation 18:19.
Say it again.
Revelation 18:19.
There you go.
Says the papacy.
It's the papacy. I mean, the United States is going to do things. But the world power, and see, you can always, when somebody says, well, the Turks aren't a world power, you say to them, you're right. You're right. But it's the sign that God has given me to let me know that I need to get my character together. Because no matter what you do, you can't stop what the papacy is going to do. And I said this when I did the Eastern question. It's amazing how the introduction of Islam is in Genesis 16:12. And the end of Islam is in Revelation 16:12. That ain't no accident. Excuse my vocabulary. Brother Mike.
It's like a puppet show. It's how
Stop.
it works.
You got to stop here, Brother Mike. You got to stop. I'm going to show a puppet show. I'm going to show a puppet show. I can't believe this. Woo! Yeah, Genesis 16:12, which is Ishmael, the beginning of Ishmael, and Revelation 16:12. Brother Mike, I'm sorry, Brother Mike. It's like a puppet show, though. I'm serious. It really is. And so when we look at this, brothers and sisters, no matter how you slice it, when you... Revelation 16:12, huh? Oh, the quote was from... Oh, Sister Sue.
Letter 57, 1896.
Say that again? Letter 57, 1896.
CW, what is CW?
Counsels to Writers and Editors. 65, paragraph 1. Now watch this. Now, so we're now, see, why did the Jews make such a big mistake? Why did the Jews make such a big mistake when Jesus came? Where did they think they were? In that structure that Nebuchadnezzar saw, where did they think they were? Head of gold, chest of silver, torso of bronze, legs of iron, feet of miry clay. Where did they think they were? No, gold was Babylon. Gold was Babylon. They thought, now when does that rock destroy the image?
They probably interpreted when the Messiah would come, that he would be the one to.
That's right. They thought that the Messiah would come and the first time and destroy this. But the prophecy says he comes the second time and destroy this. They were way up here in the feet of iron and the legs of iron. So they misinterpreted and thought Jesus was coming in glory when he came in grace. And we have gotten to the same point where we're misinterpreting prophecy and thinking that we can have an effect on Rome when we cannot have any effect on Rome. Rome is going to do what it's going to do. The Jews had gotten so tired of Rome that all they could think about was Jesus destroy Rome. Jesus destroy Rome. And Jesus said, I didn't come in glory. I came in grace. And so now we're in the feet of iron and clay in all these countries, whether it be the United States, whether it be Great Britain, whether it be Russia, whether it be France, whether it be China, whether it be Turkey, it doesn't make a difference. All of them bow down to the papacy. Wow. Every single one. That's why we showed how every one of them go to the papacy. I looked online, and every president of every country, every major country has gone to Rome except for one. Do you know which one that is? I was amazed. I said, why hasn't he been forced to do that? Why hasn't he? China. Well, North Korea isn't a powerhouse. It's a nation, and it has nuclear. But the only one that hasn't gone is China. And I haven't figured that one out except for they are truly atheists. That's the only thing I can find out why. That's the only one. So I'm still trying to figure that out. But be that as it may, when we look back at this, how does he do it? With the feet of iron and clay, how does this iron always manage to control the nations? How does that iron always manage to control the nations? Sister White says the following. Under various disguises, the Jesuits worked their way into offices of state. climbing up to be the counselors to kings and shaping the policy of nations. That's how she does it. They became servants to act as spies upon their masters. They established colleges for the sons and princes of nobles and schools for the common people, and the children of Protestant parents were drawn into the observance of popish rite. I can tell you right now, I know people, leaders in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, who have sent their children to Georgetown, and to Georgetown University, and expected that their children would retain their Seventh-day Adventist culture. How can they expect that when we've already seen our children go to Oakwood and Andrews and lose their Seventh-day Adventist culture with our schools?
I didn't know. I sent my son to St. John. I didn't know.
Well, you didn't know. But if you are a leader in the Seventh-day Adventist Church and you are second, third, fourth generation Seventh-day Adventist, and you still send your child to Georgetown and you expect they're going to come out as a Seventh-day Adventist, they come out and they get jobs and they become part of the conversion of Seventh-day Adventism to Catholicism. That's why she says they established colleges for the sons of princes and nobles and schools for the common people, and the children of Protestant parents were drawn into observance of popish rites. Brother Henry, and then Sister Cammie.
When you read the first sentence, under various disguises, the Jesuits worked their way into offices of state, climbing up to be counselors of kings and shaping the policies of nations. That's why all of the presidents have Jesuit advice.
Okay, I'm only got another half an hour and I got too much to cover, but I got to hit on this. See, Brother Henry was talking about it this morning. In case you missed, I'll get you Sister Lauren in just a second. If you lose, if something happens to Trump, so be it. So be it. Because guess what? Pence. But see, Trump spent 2 years at Fordham University, which is one of the leading Jesuit institutions in America as well. Trump went to Fordham University in New Jersey. So, I'm sorry, New York. I get those NYs and NJs mixed up. So it doesn't make a difference. They work their way into offices of state, climbing up to be counselors of kings and shaping the policy of nations. When we look at what just happened in December of this year, why do you think that Trump was able to go ahead and say that he's going to put the embassy in Jerusalem? You think he just came up with that idea? Do you think that the evangelicals just came up with the idea to tell him to do it? No, the evangelicals have been going to schools that have been infiltrated by the Jesuits, and their thought pattern has been, do this, do that. And so when they get into positions of power and can influence the president, they influence the president to do just what Rome would have them to do. All this is a puppet game. That's all it is. It's those feet of iron telling the clay what to do. And the clay doesn't even realize it. And we're going to show that in just a few minutes. All the outward pomp and display of the Romish worship was brought to bear to confuse the mind and dazzle and captivate the imagination. And thus the liberty for which the fathers had toiled and bled were betrayed by the sons. So it's the very children of Protestants generations before who are betraying their church to Rome right now. The Jesuits rapidly spread themselves over Europe. And wherever, not just Europe, and wherever they went, there followed a revival of popery. No matter where they are, no matter where they've been, it's a revival of popery. And now it's in high gear right now, brothers and sisters. Very, very high gear. I'm going to skip these.
Is that why we got more Catholics on the Supreme Court than any other time?
That is another topic. I thought, the question was, is that why we have more Catholics on the Supreme Court than any other time? Scalia, remember when I did the talk on climate change? And, all of a sudden, Scalia is like bumped off, right? Because he voted against this climate change thing. And I was thinking, oh, this is good. Maybe we'll get a non-Catholic. Nope, no such thing. It's back to 6 and 3. 6 Catholics and 3 Jews. How many Protestants?
The one who just was he a Catholic?
Gorsuch? Not Gorsuch. Scalia, he was a Catholic. He was a Jesuit-trained Catholic.
Yeah, I know, he was a Catholic.
Yeah, Roberts, Alito, Kennedy, Thomas, and Gorsuch. And that last one name was Gorsuch is the last one?
And the lady was telling
No, none of the, and Sotomayor. So that makes it 6.
Sotomayor also Catholic.
Sotomayor, so that's 6.
He's also pro-life.
Yeah, well, yeah, but guess what? When you have to go to your confession and they tell you what to do, historically we know that this is what they've already done. So let's look. So why are we talking about this in relationship to signs of the time, and who is the world power, or how did the world power get to be? Okay? Who is the world power, and how did the world power get to be? Look at this.
President Trump is giving a heads up today to the leader of the Palestinian Authority that he intends to move the U.S. embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Now, this despite calls from several American allies to halt those plans. A spokesman for President Mahmoud Abbas says he warned President Trump today dangers are afoot of steps like that, and the Palestinian leaders are adamant that such a move would be a violation of international law. A source tells CNN the White House is expected to announce plans tomorrow to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. For President Trump, it's a campaign promise he hopes to show that he is keeping.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
Now, that was candidate Trump. It's worth pointing out that this promise has been fulfilled by no U.S. presidents, even though many of them have made that very same promise. CNN's Ian Lee is watching the story from Jerusalem. He joins me live. Ian, what are they saying over there?
Well, Dana, people are bracing for this announcement. Now, we need to note that the president hasn't said it yet, but people here are acting like he is, or he's about to, because we do have the Palestinians saying that they're going to continue to work with regional leaders to help put the pressure on President Trump. We're also hearing from the Jordanians, who said that President Trump also had a conversation with King Abdullah. And in that conversation, King Abdullah warned of the dangers of any decision without a comprehensive peace deal. He went on to say that he stressed that the adoption of this decision will have serious ramifications and implications on the security and stability in the Middle East. And this is something, though, that we've heard not just from the Jordanians, but also from the Saudis, from the Egyptians, other leaders in the region who are really worried what this could mean for stability and security if the United States makes this move. And it's just not leaders in this region. We also know that French President Emmanuel Macron has reached out to the president to warn him about making such a unilateral move. But we need to note that the Israeli officials, they have advocated for this for a long time. Both the defense minister and the mayor of Jerusalem have welcomed a potential decision. Dana?
Ian Lee, thank you so much for that report. Back around the table, Olivia, I know you've done some extensive reporting on this. What is your sense, not to put you on the spot, but I'll put you on the spot.
Sure.
Is it I intend to move it, or it's going to move on this date and the ground is going to be broken on this date and here are my plans?
So there are two separate issues. They're very closely related, but they're separate. One is, this is on the table now because there's a U.S. law from the Clinton era that mandates the move from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem unless the president waives it. And they waive it in 6-month increments. That's why this is on the table now. The deadline technically was yesterday. The second issue, which is the more interesting one now, is the one where looks like he actually is shifting American policy, which is formally recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. That's a notable shift. But all this talk about how he's telling these leaders that he intends to move the embassy, that's U.S. law. Mm-hmm. Unless we get a date certain, nothing has changed there. The recognition is significant, and there's something to watch here. Will he or any senior officials talk about what this means for the capital of a future and still very hypothetical Palestinian state? Because the main fight here is Israel has always claimed Jerusalem as its capital, but the Palestinians have claimed East Jerusalem as the capital of their, again, hypothetical future state. That's really the thing to watch here. Is he actually going to announce a groundbreaking, or is he going to kick the can down the road? Is he going to say, I'm commissioning a study to determine where and when we could groundbreak? Those are two very different issues. I will note that our reporting at Yahoo News, my colleague Hunter Walker, has unearthed the fact that the White House notified some allied evangelical leaders before they notified some senior State Department officials, which is telling you something about the grounds for this decision.
Did you hear that? Who did he contact? Who did he contact? Trump? Before he contacted his own State Department, Brother Lewis, what we were talking about, he's completely unusual. Before when you are a president, your State Department is your voice to the rest of the people in the world. So before he even said the decision was being made, he contacted the evangelicals. Do you understand what that means? Okay, who plays chess? Who plays? Raymond, you're just going to hold that thought. Please write it down if you have to. Okay.
What happened to Sadat? Same thing.
Sadat, right. Wait a minute. Watch. Hold on.
You watch.
Who has ever played chess? I played chess. Okay. I'm not going to be shy and say I didn't. I did. Okay. No one else played chess? Okay. I see 4. Okay. What pieces? Okay, this is the Holy Roman Empire. That's what the chess game was built on. What pieces are these? Those 4 red dots. What pieces are those? Bishops. And who do they sit next to? King and the Queen. You know why this was set up like this? To be an example of the Roman Empire, because no king or queen made a decision without letting the bishop know first. The church knew before the king made a decision. That was the Holy Roman Empire. Now you see, remember we were talking about an image to the beast? Now the evangelical churches have positioned themselves where before the president makes a decision, he contacts the church first. Is that an image? Is that an image to the beast? Brother Raymond, were you going to say something?
Yeah, well, what Trump is doing is what El Sadat did in
1968.
No, it was 1980.
Well, who got killed? Sadat?
Sadat, yeah.
Sadat, what's his name? But Menachem? No, that's Menachem Begin.
When he's trying to unify the Palestinians.
Oh, yeah, right, exactly.
They're bombing him.
Yeah, but time wasn't right. Time. That's very issue, but time.
Out of this issue.
Watch. I'm telling you, brother, watch. So here, look, these are the evangelicals. They now have hijacked your government for a president to not contact his Secretary of State. That says this is a new ball game. That's just, no one has ever done anything like that before, ever before. No one would even think to call the churches and say we're getting ready to do something, because when you put an embassy, this is 18, and 2016, the United States built a new embassy in Great Britain. You know how much it cost? Huh? Oh, stop it. When the United States built an embassy in Great Britain, you know how much it cost? $500 million. That's $500 million. To put an embassy in Great Britain, which is nowhere near high security as Israel, do you think $500 million is going to be enough? They have to think about all the security precautions. And so when you look at the beast was Europe under the control of the papacy. This is what an image looked like when you look in the mirror. Your right is your left and your left is your right. And now we see, this is what the image looked like. The U.S. under the control of the evangelical churches. Speak as you want. That's what you're seeing. But it's learning everything from the papacy. That's how it's learning. All these are the evangelical Christianity, and they're learning everything on how they do what they do from the papacy. Okay. Brother Mike, this is for Brother Mike. Okay, I'll give you that picture. Brother Mike mentioned this. Now I want you to, he didn't know, we don't even talk about these things, okay? How many of you have seen a Punch and Jody show? You ever heard of Punch and Jody? Punch and Judy, I'm sorry. Any of y'all? None of y'all? Okay, I was the only one up the television too. Man, I played chess on the television. Okay. Okay, how many of you have seen a Punch and Judy show? Many of the audience held up their hands. I guess not in this audience. This was written by A.T. Jones. Those little figures that work back and forth there, bobbing up and down, to and from above the curtain, are manipulated by someone behind the scenes you don't see. Behind the curtain. That's what the Punch and Judy show was all about. They were puppets. And it was a big thing back in the 1800s, because this was on before television. Jones goes on and says, those little puppets that bob up there are exactly what these Protestant churches are today in the hands of the papacy. He wrote this back in 1893. She is beneath, she sits behind the curtain, she works the wires, she touches the triggers. These Protestants in their blindness think they are doing great things for themselves, but they are simply the puppets in the hands of the papacy, working as she desires upon this government and through this government for all the world. General Conference Daily Bulletin, 1893, or you would also find it in Third Angel's Messages of 1893, page 111, paragraph 9. So this is nothing new. Nothing new at all. So when you see these things happening, brothers and sisters, you have to say to yourself, how close are we to midnight? How close are we to midnight? General Conference Daily Bulletin, GCDB or GCB, whichever, it would either be GCDB or GCB, page 111. This was the article, and I'm going to begin wrapping up. I got about 10, 15 minutes.
Sorry, one question. Is he going to use his vetoing power to accomplish this?
Oh, what you mean, to accomplish what?
To accomplish this policy, because he has to go to Congress first.
No, he doesn't. What'd you say, Brother Lewis? It's done, brother. Oh, we don't. You know what? You got to come back next week, because I'm going to show you where the money's coming from.
So he uses executive power?
I can't tell. I will make you come back next week. It's a done deal, brother. You know what? We're at slide number 175, and I still have 200 and something to go. That's why I'm going to cover the other part next week. And that's going to show you how this is all getting ready to be done, down to the final move. It's moving very quickly, and hold on just a second, Brother Lewis. It's moving very quickly, and all the players are now lining up. The U.S. government looks as if from the outside it has a sign up that says, for sale. Brother Lewis?
Yeah, I'll say, in reference to that, Raymond was asking, Congress did not stand up and say we oppose.
Right.
And it's, oh, man. Hold on just a second.
They say it, but they don't oppose.
Okay, I think we can get a little bit more of this covered. Okay, just hold on, just hold tight. Just hold tight. Defiant Donald Trump confirms U.S. will recognize Jerusalem as capital of Israel. Now, this was back in December, okay? He says, my announcement marks the beginning, I want you to write this term down. My announcement marks the beginning of a new approach to the conflict. Okay? That's what he says. This is a new approach. That's what Trump says. Now, Trump has defied overwhelming global opposition by recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, but insisted that the highly controversial move, as Brother Raymond was saying, would not derail his own administration's bid to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Further down he says, I have determined that it is time to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Remember, this is to draw the Turks in. Satan is doing this to draw the Turks in, because it's got to be a tit for tat. It's emotions. See, NATO, the two top nations in NATO are who? U.S. and Turkey. Number one and number two. And one is on one side of the equation with Israel, and the other is on the other side of the equation with the Palestinians. This shows you that everything is on the table right now. We are in serious times, brothers and sisters. Trump said, while previous presidents have made this a major campaign promise, they failed to deliver. Today, I am delivering. The president's announcement provoked condemnation from U.S. allies and a furious reaction from Palestinian leaders in the Muslim world. Within minutes of Trump's announcement, U.S. embassies in Turkey, Jordan, Germany, and Britain issued security alerts urging Americans to exercise caution. And we know that he said that, right? We all know that, right? Now, watch this. When Trump made this announcement, first he said it was going to take 10 years to happen. So, of course, the Palestinians and the Muslims were a little upset, but they said in 10 years, anything can happen, right? Then he came back and he said it was going to be in 4 years. And they said, well, you know what, this is getting a little close. But 4 years, now, if he said it would be 4 years, that was in early January, when could his term be up as president?
In 3 years.
In 3 years. So what would happen if a new president comes in and doesn't agree with this policy?
Couldn't get it done.
Change it, right? So then Pence came up and said what? Pence came, and I have the slide on here, but I'm going to get a little ahead of myself. Pence came and said it would be at the end of 2019. Then the Muslims said, we're getting upset with you now because you've changed this many times. And then the beginning of this month, they said May 14th, 2018. This is happening. This year. Now, let's digress a little bit, because Rome is behind the scene playing the games of numbers. In 1948, World War II came to its end. And one of the biggest things that came out of World War II was the Jews were given Israel by the United Kingdom, the United States, and Rome and the United Nations. Okay, so as of 1948, Israel became an independent nation. May 14th, 1948. And ever since then, what did the Jews do when God told them to take Jericho? What did they do the first time? They said they weren't going to do it, right? We seemed as giants as it was in their eyes, right? Mm-hmm. And God said, you're going to die in the wilderness. And what did they say to God? We're going to go and take it anyway, right? Mm-hmm. And what happened? They lost, right? Mm-hmm. Because when God told them to do it the first time, they wouldn't do it. In the interest of time, I'm going to tell you about this, and if you need the research, I can show it to you. Most of us don't know that in 1844, the Sultan of Turkey granted permission, and you can find it on your Ellen White CD-ROM, okay? In 1844, the Sultan of Turkey granted the Jews permission to take Israel and completely have control of it. Did you hear what I said? Did anyone hear what I said? Let me say it and then you hold that question, Brother Thompson. Would you guys say something? Okay, in 1844, you can find this on the Sister White writings, okay? Just type in Sultan and then put, loosed. Put chains loosed Sultan, and then it'll come up that way. In 1844, the Jews were given permission by the Sultan to have Israel back completely. He gave it back to them. And you're like saying, well, what's the big deal? Why is that a big deal? Turn your Bible with me to Luke 21, 22, and 24. Luke 21, 22, and 24. Let's show you how God was, even after the Jews had proven that they were not going to be faithful, God still was trying to bring them back as individuals. I'm almost wrapped up on this. 13 minutes. Okay, then 33 minutes. Okay, now look at this. Here's Jesus telling the disciples how God is going to try to work with the Jews one last time. He was trying to work with the Jews one last time. Let's see if it's true. Here's Jesus talking. He says, for these be the days, he was talking about the end of time, for these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck. In those days, for there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. And who is he talking about now? And they shall fall by the edge of the sword. Is he talking about literal or spiritual Israel? Literal, right? Did literal Israel fall by the edge of the sword? Okay, good. And shall be led away captive into all nations. True or false? It happened, right? Okay. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the what? Time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. In other words, what Jesus is saying here is that when the Gentiles finally give Israel back to, or the land back to the Jews, that will be it. That's going to be no more. I'm not trying anymore after this. I'm through with trying. The time of the fulfillment of the Gentiles. When did the Gentiles start? Now I want you to put on your thinking caps. When did the Gentiles start having dominion over Israel? Don't speak too quick. When did the Gentiles begin having dominion over Israel? What did you say? When did they begin? When did the Gentiles begin? When did the non-Jews have dominion over Israel?
When the Assyrian took over the first time.
Not the first time. You were close. That was real close. Real close. What'd you say, Susan? That was real close. Who? Syrians? No. No. Turn your Bibles with me to Ezra. Turn your Bibles with me to Ezra 7. Yeah, she figured it out. Ezra 7. Okay, we there? Verse 13. Ezra 7 and verse 13. Actually, 7 and 8, and we can go because of time. Let's start with verse 8, and we'll read down a little bit. And he came to Jerusalem, speaking of Ezra, in the 5th month, which was in the 7th year of the king. What was the 7th year of Ahasuerus? What was the 7th year? He took over in 464 BC. 7 years into that would be 7 from 464, which would you subtract 457, because that's when the edict went through. But did the Israel have complete control, or did they have control subject to the king and the king only?
Subject to the king.
They were subject to the king and the king only. So was it under Jewish control or Gentile control?
Gentile control.
So from that time forward until the Gentile said, it's your land.
But the Assyrian was possessed them before that.
No, the Assyrians didn't, because Babylon was the first country who God allowed to beat down Israel. That's why they made Babylon the first world kingdom. That's because you had it split. Remember, it was split. Remember?
Yeah.
Okay, then after the split, part of it went under Assyrian control, but all of Israel was not under control of a pagan or heathen country.
No.
So when they became under the control of a pagan heathen country, it was under the Babylonians. But nobody was living there. Right? Because all the Jews had been taken off into captivity. It was just a handful. Right? There was just a handful. But when they were under the dominion of the Medo-Persians, that's when the Medo-Persians said, you can go back into the country, right? And that was 457, and that was when the time started marking that the Gentiles reigned dominion over the Israelites who were living in Israel. And they said it was only subject to the king himself. And from that time forward, which is the time of the Gentiles, until 1844, when God made a way, nobody understands why the Sultan decided to tell the Jews, you can go back. And did the Jews go back in 1844? Come on. When did the Jews go back to Israel? We just showed it a few moments ago. 1948. So God made a way for the Jews to go back to Israel in 1844, and they didn't go. You remember a time like that before in history? Yeah. When God made a way for the Jews to go back, and they didn't go back until later. And so in 1844, when God made a way and the Jews said, we're not going to go back. We're going to go back when man made it so they go. It's 1844, when the Sultan of Turkey, who has Sister White writings on the computer or something right here, with the original CD-ROM. Anyone? Come on. No, I can't do that. I got to do it in here. 1840. I'm sorry. Yes, it is. I'll show it to you. Let me show it to you on the side, because that'll be another.
Let me look it up.
You won't find it. You have to find it on her CD-ROM, or look it up. I tell you what. Look up Sultan Chains Are Loose. You're not going to find it on it. It has to be on the Pioneer side of it. It has to be on the Pioneer side of it. I promise you. The Pioneers are not on that one. Unless you downloaded the new one. Okay, if you downloaded the new one, then look it up and you'll see it says chains are loosed, Sultan chains are loosed. And don't even worry, because I tell you what, if I don't have it while I'm up here, we can go back here and I'll show it to you. Huh? No, Sultan chains are loosed. Loosed. Chains are loosed. But okay, that's not a problem, because I guarantee you I'll be able to show it to you. So let's go back to this, what Jesus said would happen. Jesus says they'll be led away. Let's look back at Luke 21:22 through 24, and we're in verse 24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword. We agreed that happened. And they shall be led away captive into all nations. That happened. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of or by the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled or finished. Also, the other reference is Mordecai Noah, Noah. Write the name down, Mordecai Noah. He did a talk in 1846, 1847 on this same topic. Mordecai, Mordacia, Noah, Noah. He's a Jew and he was a magistrate, and he actually did the talk on this, on how the Jews refused to go back in 1844 when they were supposed to have. Say again, Mordecai, like Mordecai. In Esther, Noah, like Noah in the ark. Noah. Look up the name Mordecai Noah on Google, and you'll find it. He talks about it because that's where the speech comes from. James White had the speech. I saw it on there, etc., etc. So, with that being said, the Jews had an opportunity to go back to Israel when God made a way.
That's 2,300 days.
Well,
thank you.
That's chronological. I see the chronological.
That's what the purpose was. God was saying, I'm finishing it all at one time.
So, in other words, it's chronological, right? Order, right?
That's right. He was trying to show the Jews that even though as a nation you refuse to listen to me, I'm going to try one more time. Okay, Cammie, you seeing you're lost. Let's just pause. Don't have to pause that. We're going to pause all together. What's the problem? Come on, Cammie, talk to me.
You're saying things that I don't understand here.
Okay, tell me the part you don't understand.
What's the correlation between 457 and 1844? That's
the 2,300 days. It was the exact same time frame. And God worked through the Turks to tell the Jews, you can go back to Israel, because God was showing to the individual Jews one more line of mercy.
That was done in 457.
Right, it started, the time of the Gentiles having dominion over God's land was 457.
Yeah, but that was the time the king told the Jews
That's
they can go back.
And he was what kind of king? What kind of king was he? Hold on.
He
was a what?
Pagan, a Gentile.
Gentile.
Yeah.
And so the Gentiles reigned control from 457 all the way to 1844 in the land of Israel. This is what the pioneers, this is how they studied.
So, but where is that with the prophecy of Jesus? What we just read?
Because what does it say? Let's read it again. Read verse 24. And let's read it.
What are we reading?
Verse 24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword. Did that happen? Yes. And shall be led away captive into all nations. Did that happen? Yes. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of or by the Gentiles. How long? Until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. The time of the Gentiles was not fulfilled in 1948. It was 1844. But the Jews didn't take it. They didn't believe in the arm of flesh. They didn't believe in the omnipotent arm. They waited 104 more years and trusted in the arm of flesh. They proved that no matter how long it took, they were not going to be faithful to God. Hold on, Susan, and then you. Susan?
So that means that since the God gave another chance, they didn't take it.
It's no more chances.
So then, like now, they No more.
There's no more. There's no more options for them. I mean, you got onesies and twosies. You got onesies and twosies, no doubt, because Sister White says in Desire of Ages, if we want to walk in the steps of Jesus, we don't have to walk to Israel. We can find the same kind of people right here in our neighborhoods, in our homes, in our communities. So that's not an issue. That's not an issue. But the point of the matter is this. Israel had an opportunity to prove that they were going to be loyal to God one last time, and they didn't. And so now they are trying to make prophecy be fulfilled themselves. That's why they want it to be done by the 70 years.
Okay.
They're trying to fulfill prophecy themselves. That's why this is all happening. That's why they make it May 14th, 2018, because it's 70 years after they've been declared an independent state. They are trying to fulfill prophecy, and only God can do it. I see hands coming all up. I got, wait a minute. Brother Lewis, Brother Ramon. Brother Lewis, hold on. Brother Lewis, no, Sully, you're next, Sully.
1948.
Uh-huh.
I was born.
You weren't born.
Many people said that the Jews were not real Jews. They were, okay. So
Taser something.
The Jews in 1844
Mm-hmm.
were actual Jews,
Mm-hmm.
were real Jews in comparison to the Jews in 1948.
Absolutely.
Okay, or not even real Jews.
Correct.
Who are now taking over.
Right, exactly.
That's why he made the call. The evangelicals, they've been working on them.
They're not.
Having been espousing the Zionist vision of rebuilding
The temple.
which is not even the right location.
Exactly.
The mount is not even.
So what you have is when the real Jews had a chance to go back, they didn't. The people who were say it again?
My question I forgot to ask. So what happened to them after they have not returned in 1840?
They stayed where they were. Just remember when the Jews would remember, why did it take so long? Okay, the Jews were supposed to go back in 536 BC when Cyrus signed the edict. Remember?
Yeah.
But they didn't go back until they didn't begin going back to 457.
Second decree.
That was actually the third decree. The third decree, right? And when they went back, only 49,992 of them went. When there were almost 1 million still in Babylon because they liked where they lived. So in 1844, the very same thing happened. They didn't want to go back to Israel. It was like we're having a good time here in the world. And so when World War II happened, the people who were imported to Israel were the people that the Roman Catholic Church wanted to be in Israel.
They started changing their names.
And they started looking less like Jews. I saw Ramul, and then I saw Lewis, then Ramul, and then Cami again.
It's interesting that wherever they went, for the most part, they prospered. And that prosperity, especially financial prosperity, was something that kept them in those areas.
They couldn't give it up.
They couldn't give it up. And we see even from that prosperity, even serving the Vatican in terms of the Rothschilds.
Exactly.
The Warburgs.
That's where the money was. Warburgs, that's where the money was.
Yeah. And strangely, Albert Pike mentioned, even with the formation of it's there for their purpose, for their reason.
It's all falling into place, beloved. It's all falling squarely into place. We couldn't even have this conversation in the conference church.
The last point that you just said,
It's all part of the plan.
3 wars.
The final, the Third World War.
And we in it.
World War I planned.
What's for World War? Yep.
Planned, and now
We're getting ready for World War III.
Which is what Israel is there. The current
The Zionist Israel, right?
Use it to start
World War III.
They cannot be in a World War III, I'm sorry.
What is called Armageddon?
According to their plan.
Armageddon. Armageddon. What it is, Armageddon. It will be Armageddon.
I know, but the Lord will not allow people to use nuclear to
Oh, no. He won't allow that because he says whoever destroys the world, God shall destroy it. Brother Ramul, you're next.
I was trying not to ask you this question. My wife keeps saying, ask him. I said, no, it's going to throw the whole thing off.
No.
But then the sister said, and then he said, I'm sitting here and I'm saying, okay, Cestius and Titus.
Okay.
I mean,
The 2 sieges.
All right, the 2 sieges, all of Jerusalem is killed.
Except for the 1 million Christians.
Right, and they fled. So if the Jews have to return in 1844, where did these Jews come from? If they don't exist, who are these people?
They're half the Semites. They're Zionists, but some of them have some Jewish blood, but for the most part, they're more European. But they were sent there purposefully so that they could be a hedge point That land was given to them. That land, when it was given to them by the Muslims, by Ottoman, it was fair and square. We're giving it to you. But but they didn't take it. So 104 years later, it was now, because basically it was, you don't take the deal, okay, fine, we're leaving. We're done. You don't want the deal, we're okay. But in 1948, it was now taken from the Turks and given to the Jews.
Right, but why are they still considered Jews? I mean, in terms of
Because it's a trigger point in the hearts of a lot of people. You say someone is the people of God, they don't care if they keep the Sabbath and we keep the Sunday. They don't know that. Most people don't know their history. The vast majority don't know their history. Sister Cammie, it is. Sister Cammie.
Okay. The question that I have, the Bible talks about 2 different 70 weeks. In the Bible.
Uh-huh.
So you have the very first 70 weeks where you see Daniel was saying that he was reading by the books, and then you realize the time.
Which was 70 years. That was 70 years.
Huh?
That was 70 years.
70 years, yeah.
70 years. The 70-year prophecy of Jeremiah.
Yeah. But at the same time, we have the other 70 years in Daniel 9, where in that prophecy.
That's the 70 weeks. 79. They were in captivity for 70 years, but they were going to be out for
70 weeks.
Right, 70 weeks. Uh-huh. Is that okay?
I got you.
Okay, though. Are we okay?
No, but actually, this is the reason I asked the question. So which one of the prophecy now they're trying to fulfill? The Jews now, that to put it out, whatever that.
Jesus will come at the end of 70 years is what they're trying to say. They're basically misinterpreting it. Right, they're misinterpreting it because they're saying when this happens, they think that Jesus is coming this year. And you won't see this until next week because it's just, I don't have time. I can't show it this week, we just don't have enough time.
The 70 years, I think she's talking about, is that we talking about from 1948
To now. That's what she's talking about.
to 7 years that
They're trying to say that Jesus would come in 70 years. That's what they believe. They have the red heifer, they have all these things ready, and they think that in 70, they think that Jesus is coming. They think they're going to build the embassy and the temple this year.
said that they have the ark.
So is that the reason why this morning you are talking about 45 days left?
Yeah.
Yes.
May 18th.
Yeah, May 14th. Yeah, 45, because as soon as that embassy is in place, now Jerusalem, in as much as the United States is concerned, is the capital of Israel. It's been, as far as the Jews are concerned, their capital has been restored, and now they can start preparing for doing what, brothers and sisters?
Building the temple.
Building the temple. And in order to build a temple, they have to destroy another. I can't show you that this week. I'm sorry. I just can't. Oh, yes, I can. Yes, I can. In order to build one, they have to destroy another. And this is what they're claiming. In other words, they want to remove the Muslims and put the Jewish temple where the Muslim temple is. Mike, you said under your breath, big deal. That's bigger than a big deal.
No, but they were debating with the Muslims in finding a place near the.
No, Mecca is in Arabia. The Dome of the Rock.
Right, in the dome and building their temple. A scientist came about and went to the Jews and said, "This is the wrong place. We found the right place. It's down there. There's water exactly like it's described in the Bible." The Jews would not listen. But it's proven scientifically that this was the wrong place the entire time that they were trying to build temples. Great documents about it.
I've heard about that. I can't get into the next section because the next section runs a lot longer. But I will leave you with this. I will leave you with this because I think this is worth, I think this will at least be enough for you to realize how close these people really are playing this. This is in Haaretz magazine, newspaper. This was December 18th after it was done. This is what the Evangelicals said. They said what? Armageddon? Bring it on. This is what the Evangelicals actually said. The evangelical force behind Trump's Jerusalem speech, believing it moves the world closer to Armageddon. Okay, we'll read this part of the article and we'll let them speak for themselves. Okay? All right. Anyone wondering? Hold on just a second. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on just a second. I'm going to have to read it from the top. Anyone wondering what the true impetus or motivation was behind U.S. President Donald Trump's decision on Wednesday to unilaterally recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital needed only to view the image of the president when he made the formal announcement? Trump showed he is behind the evangelical agenda, not only when it comes to enacting domestic agenda, like opposing abortion, appointing conservative judges, or saying Merry Christmas, but on foreign policy, issues close to their heart as well. I'm going to skip. Trump is showing love to Israel because evangelical voters form the crucial linchpin in his relatively small but solid support base. Evangelical voters threw their support behind Trump in 2016 at a higher rate than any previous presidential candidate, giving him 81% of their vote. It was these Christian evangelicals and Pence, an evangelical himself, and a prominent touchstone of their influence in the Trump administration that were clearly the driving force behind the Jerusalem Declaration. Skip. Hold on, we already saw that. The early Christmas gift to evangelicals was consistent with the Trump administration, which had been the most evangelical-friendly White House in the U.S. history, with an unprecedented number of card-carrying members of the religious right filling cabinet positions. Remember Sister Jessie, Johnny Moore in that article? Okay. And Johnny Moore, considered the de facto leader of Trump's evangelical advisors, told CNN that the status of Jerusalem has been a top priority for the community, evangelical community, and that the issue was second only to concerns about judiciary among the president's core evangelical supporters. By making this move, Trump has demonstrated to his evangelical supporters that he will do what he says he will do. More added. Evangelicals are ecstatic, and let me give you the last. Oh, now this you got to see this. Bass, Diana Butler Bass, who's one of their advisors, Bass said the Jerusalem issue was so important to evangelicals because what? It is necessary to regain Judeo-Christian control of the.
That's what they're fighting for.
That's what they want. And then, this is vital, she explained, because rebuilding the temple would initiate the
layout in the book of Revelation.
Go ahead, Brother Raymond. I see your hand. It says go.
You remember he sacked Rabin, he paid a price.
I'm sorry, say it again?
You remember he sacked Rabin?
Oh, you said Rabin, yeah. Yes, he paid a
assassinated by the Jews.
Well, that's.
Because he tried to negotiate, he tried to play a game, and this is what Donald Trump is trying to do.
Well,
but this is a bloody issue.
This is getting ready to be a bloody issue. It is. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I can tell you one thing. When you see next week, you'll see that Erdogan is playing. I'm going to get. You'll see that Erdogan is looking at this as the opportunity. Okay, let's continue. End time is a fundamentalist Christian. Now, see, when I saw this, I said, I'm a fundamentalist. I don't understand any of this. It doesn't fit with what we believe, because we believe in the true fundamentals of the Bible. End time is a fundamentalist Christian belief in a prophecy that the living and the resurrected will one day be delivered from earth by God. We believe that much. Their bodies transformed and protected in heaven as he pours out his wrath on the sinners left behind. But Butler Bass asserted that of all the possible theological dog whistles to his evangelical base, the Jerusalem Declaration is the biggest. Trump is reminding them that he is carrying out God's will to these last days. They have been waiting for this, praying for this. She said they want war in the Middle East, the Battle of Armageddon, at which time Jesus Christ will return to earth and vanquish all God's enemies. For certain evangelicals, this is the climax of history, and Trump is taking them there. That's the hands going on. Wait a minute, Mike.
So how is this thing going to climax? Is the Pope going to try to unify by bringing a Sunday law?
No, that's not. No, that's not. That's because remember, who is going to initiate a Sunday law? Let's remember what prophecy says. It's got to be the evangelicals. So something has to happen to this situation to make the evangelicals say, we need a national Sunday law. And that's why we need to understand Daniel 11:45. And none shall help him. I'll get that. We can do that. That's next week. I can't get to it this way. I'm not going to try to touch it this week. Let's continue. And it says, they want war in the Middle East, the battle of Armageddon, at which time Jesus Christ will return to the earth and vanquish all God's enemies. For certain evangelicals, this is the climax of history, and Trump is taking them there. To the promised judgment, to their sure victory. The righteous will be ushered to heaven, the reprobate will be banished to hellfire. To these true believers, she added, the Jerusalem announcement is the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. Donald Trump is not only acting on a campaign promise, but enacting a theological one. They believe that Donald Trump is God's instrument to move us closer to the rapture, the judgment, and the end. This is their words. This is their words, brothers and sisters. This is what the evangelicals believe right now. And with this happening on May 14th, they saying we're getting closer. I wish I had more time.
Also must think that they're ready.
They have no idea. They don't even know what this is going to be about. Sister White said she couldn't even pin it. She couldn't even pin what was going to happen.
Like they're ready to die.
They don't know.
They don't know.
They have no idea.
Before the full Holocaust of Armageddon and the killing, they are going to be sucked out.
Yes.
From the earth.
Yes, they have no idea. Brother Mike and then Brother Lewis.
But they're not preparing the world.
Thank you. Did you say a lot, Brother Mike?
They're not preparing the world for the second coming of Christ. No.
They're selfish.
Not only that, but they're preparing the world for Satan to come to
And make his impersonation.
Because who's going to come first?
Satan has to come and impersonate Christ.
So when Satan comes and they're misquoting and misinterpreting the scriptures, most of the evangelical world and Christianity are going to end up worshiping Satan instead of Christ.
Exactly.
When you refer to Satan, are you referring to the men of sin?
No, I'm referring to Satan.
Impersonating Satan.
Okay.
Satan impersonated.
Last two slides. Last two slides. To these true believers, she added, the Jerusalem announcement is the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. Donald Trump is not only okay, I already read that part. As a result, she explained, the issue of whether the Jerusalem move is a provocation that could harm the cause of peace is meaningless. This is what the evangelicals say. It's meaningless if it hurts the cause of peace.
They don't care.
Since peace in this world doesn't matter. You see this? Is this Israel? Is this the God of Israel? No, brothers and sisters, this is not. We're going to stop right here. Brother Lewis, I'm going to let you ask the last question, then we're going to close up.
Now, it's interesting, even when I speak to Catholics about the end time, they are also expecting for the Temple of Mount to be rebuilt. So they're on the same page in terms of what their expectations are prophecy-wise. And the Muslims, to an extent, are also expecting something to happen.
I got a video on that one too. I can show you that next time we come. That's exactly. Everybody is thinking, and they all are off except for us. Sister White says this. She says, it is the privilege of every, and she says Christian, she means true Christian, not only to look for, but to hasten not the end of time, but the coming of the Lord. And that's what we do is how we live, how we treat each other, and what we teach. We're not trying to get war. We're not trying to start war. We're trying to introduce and tell people about Christ. They're not talking about Christ. They think that they can be the arm of God. They think that they can do what Rome did was Rome used military force to force people to do what it couldn't as a church get them to do. And now the evangelicals feel the same way. And when Jesus doesn't show up, and I said this back when we did the presentation, when we did Daniel, the last part of Ace in Question, when Jesus doesn't show up to intercede at that time, when Jesus doesn't show up, what do you think the evangelicals are going to think then? What you say, Sister Lorna? We made a mistake. But if they think that Jesus isn't with them now, what are they going to do to get Jesus with them? Got to bring this country to a Sunday law, because God will have proven that he's not with them then. So how do you get God to be back with us? Is we got to have a national Sunday law. Why do you think it's important for us to understand Daniel 11:45? Because if we don't understand Daniel 11:45, we can't tell the world that a national Sunday law is going to be facilitated by what happens in Daniel 11:45. We need to get ready now, Brother Raymond.
With that, we forget that there has to be a martial law, which is going to be prompted by the fall of the economy.
It has to.
There has to be a
reason.
The natural disaster.
Yeah, correct.
You're absolutely right, because this war has got to bring about financial ruin.
Correct, because that's going to bring the whole world
Yes.
financially.
That's right. It's going to be like a vacuum. Look, I can't talk anymore about this. I really can't, because I'll end up getting into what I'm going to talk about next week. But I will tell you this, brothers and sisters. Don't think that there's not a lot of money behind building this embassy. There is a lot of money. A whole lot of money. There's a lot of Jews that are saying they want to do this.
We have $23 trillion debt.
They don't care. This is going to come out of someone's pocket. He's already offered it to you. I'll show it to you next week. The money has already been offered to build the embassy. And the evangelicals have also would have gotten the right.
So Rome going to provide the money?
Huh? Rome is like Roach Motel. Money goes in, but it never comes out. Okay? If the tax bill that was passed, the Republican tax bill that was passed in December, if that bill would have been passed without the parliamentarian looking at it, that bill would have opened the door for money to flood into the rebuilding of the temple, and they would have started rebuilding the temple January 1. But someone stopped it, and I'll show that in next week as well. Brother Mike, I'm finished.
Was anything mentioned in all of this where they speak about the 7-year tribulation after?
Well, the evangelicals believe that there's going to be a 7-year tribulation. We're all getting ready to enter into this 7 years of tribulation. They expect there's going to be a tribulation period, but they also expect that God is going to intervene on the behalf of Israel. And I'll show you the other slide next week, where the evangelicals say they say it doesn't matter if the Jews are not faithful. It doesn't make a difference if the Jews are not scrupulous. It doesn't care. When Jesus comes, that's when the Jews are going to be converted to Jesus. That's what's in the I think it's the BBC article that I have. I want to let Brother Mike finish this question, and then we gotta go. I've already 2 hours.
The 7 years of tribulation, what they did was they took the last 7 weeks of the 70-week prophecy, and they pushed it to the future.
That's right.
See, that's what they did. But the rebuilding of the temple is a Jesuit teaching.
Ribeiro. That's Ribeiro. Jose Ribeiro.
And see, that's what, and so do you remember now, the puppet master. So the Jesuits put that out. It's just like aliens. Aliens also were invented by the Jesuits.
Mm-hmm.
You ever see
Yes.
ever see those pictures where these ships, airplanes and stuff say this UFO flying by? When you look at the picture, you never see it clearly. It's always grainy and gray and faded. You never see it with all the technology that the United States has and other countries. They can't take a clear picture.
And the persons are also obscure.
They're obscure.
Unclear like you and I have a picture.
That's right. And it's been programmed for that, because Jim Alpito, before he died back in 71, said that it was the Jesuits that are inventing the aliens.
That's right. Brothers and sisters, that shows you how close we are. And that ain't even half of what's been going on. I just wanted to make sure you knew that by the 14th of May, this world could be completely different than what we've seen, because we could see all type of terrorist attacks. See, there are, and Brother Mike alluded to it this morning when he talked about Joel, the book of Joel. The book of Joel was not to be and is not to be understood until now. The book of Joel talks about what? Don't you say, Brother Mike. The book of Joel, Joel. What does the book of Joel talk about? Joel. What does it talk about? It talk about locusts. And it talk about locusts being where? Everywhere. Everywhere. That's right. Everywhere. And so how many Muslims are there on this planet now? Not everywhere. How many?
3 billion, right?
1.3 billion. Guess how many of them are radicalized? 200 million. There's no army that's that big.
Right. And the mathematics for the 200 billion is in the Bible.
Yes, it is.
In the Bible.
It's right. It surely is. It's in Revelation.
It's going to be in the study that we'll do.
So, brothers and sisters, you and I need to get serious and not let the small stuff bother us anymore. I mean, this thing could happen. And once that embassy is in place, we don't know when Turkey's going to move. But we do know they're going to move because they've already said, we're going to move. We're going to put an embassy there. And once that embassy is there, Jesus says probation is get ready to close.
But are they saying anything with this new date of May 14th? Are they saying anything?
No. The Muslims didn't. They just said that they were very upset that they pushed the date ahead. I got you, Brother Raymond. They said they were upset. I got the article. They said they were upset that the U.S. changed the date again. And they said that this right here is going to make it harder for them because they know as leaders of their own countries that they have to walk a fine line between trying to keep some level or semblance of peace and keep their people supporting them. And so when the U.S. changes its mind over and over again, that makes them look like, well, you're not being strong against the United States. So their radicalized people are ready to bomb. And so the leaders of these Muslim countries are saying, you are putting us in a bad situation. We can't even work with you diplomatically. We're pushing it. Oh, shoving it. Sister Burns?
When they announced May 14th, we did read an article that Erdogan said that they were going to be meeting that following Wednesday.
They did.
And they were going to discuss the situation. But we don't know.
That's right.
We have not heard what has happened from that meeting. And that was in the news.
Go ahead, Brother Ramul.
I just have a question. So the evangelicals themselves are going to have a great disappointment, which is going to have them retract and then come about with a son-in-law.
They have to.
So
because when you see
had
that
a great disappointment, they're going to have a great disappointment.
they're going to have a greater disappointment.
That's right.
They're going to have a greater disappointment. I'm glad you said that because someone else had mentioned that they had a great disappointment. I mean, we had a great disappointment. They're going to have a greater. But see, they will not have learned from it.
So they're not really concerned anything with Israel. They just want to be raptured. So
They just want to be caught up. They think that whoever blesses Israel, God shall bless. Whoever curses Israel, God will curse.
it's selfish.
But that's the reason why the prophet tells us it is the privilege to hasten the coming of Christ. We're not sitting there trying to cause people hurt, harm, and danger. We're trying to tell them the good. And what they're doing is they're saying, look, we got to do this. We got to have war so that Christ will come.
So they're just trying to get a ticket out.
That's right. That's crazy. Oh, if we can cause war, Jesus is going to come and save us. No, it's not real. It's not real. So, okay, Sister Burns.
Also, Erdogan did meet with the
Pope.
With the Pope.
Yes, he did. And the Pope said that he was, on the same page as Erdogan. I'll show you. I'll have that slide too. It's a lot of things going on. What picture?
The one with the pig.
Oh, the pig. Okay. Okay, the Roman Catholic pig. Okay, though. Look, let's have a closeout word of prayer, and then we can go. Sister, let's have a closeout word of prayer, okay? Father in heaven, we thank you for allowing us this time to come together. Lord, we desire to be a church family and a family of the church of the firstborn. We may have differences, Father, but we want to learn how to remove those differences, that there is no art between any of us, that we are all on one accord. Because, Father, we know a time is coming where the only people we're going to have is each other. We do not want to be, as Jesus experienced, betrayers. We would much rather be betrayed and make it to heaven than to betray our brothers and sisters. So, Father, we ask that you would order our steps in a way that we will see the things about us, those sins that so easily beset us, and that we will draw closer to Christ, that we may be drawn closer to our brothers and our sisters. We ask that you will continue to be with us throughout the rest of this Sabbath. And as we all head into our different directions, we ask that you will continue to strengthen us, bind us close together. We thank you for the enthusiasm. We thank you, Father, for the excitement and the desire to understand. Now we ask that the words that have been shared will be hidden in our hearts and that we will go back as the Bereans and study it for ourselves. Guide and direct, honor those things that give your name honor. And we ask that as Jesus has been glorified, that you would show us what we need to be glorified as well. Lord, this is our prayer we ask in Jesus' name and for his sake. Amen.